Content warning: this video contains themes that may be distressing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Previously, on A Love That Lingered, Grace's world crumbled when she received the letter that Arthur was declared missing in action. Though devastated, she clung to hope, whispering to their unborn child that he would return. But silence stretched on, and grief threatened to consume her. This is episode 29, The Child We Never Held. The morning light filtered pale through the heavy drapes of Grace's chamber, carrying with it none of the warmth she usually found in dawn. Instead, she stirred in bed with a heaviness that went beyond sleeplessness. For weeks, her body had grown accustomed to the small aches of pregnancy, the soreness in her back, the faint kicks that fluttered like whispered reminders of life within her. But this was different. Her brow furrowed, a sharp cramp seizing her stomach. She shifted in bed, pressing a hand against her swollen belly, but then she froze. The sheets beneath her were damp. She pushed herself upright, only to feel the warm wetness spill further, soaking through her gown. Her hand came away stained red. Blood. A strangled gasp tore from her throat. Another wave of pain followed, sharper this time, knocking the breath from her lungs. She staggered to her feet, clutching at the bedpost, but her knees buckled, and she collapsed to the floor. The sound of her cry carried down the corridor, sharp and panicked. Oliver was the first to rush in, the look on his face shifting from confusion to horror as he saw her sprawled on the carpet, her gown stained crimson. "Grace!" He was at her side in seconds, trying to lift her, trying to steady her trembling body. "Help! Someone fetch the doctor! Now!" Her breaths came ragged, her eyes wide with terror. "Oliver, something's wrong. The baby." Her words were cut off by another cry as her body convulsed with pain. He clutched her hand tightly, his heart pounding wildly in his chest. "Stay with me. Do you hear me? Just stay with me." Servants scrambled, feet thundering across the manor's halls, while Lady Caldwell appeared in the doorway, her face pale as chalk. For all her composure in the past, even she faltered at the sight before her. She knelt beside Grace, brushing damp strands of hair from her face. "Hold on, child. The doctor is coming." But an hour was an eternity. By the time the physician arrived, Grace was nearly delirious with pain, her gown soaked through, her body racked with shivers. Oliver was near frantic, pressing cool cloths to her forehead, his hands trembling. Lady Caldwell's prayers murmured softly into the air, half for Grace, half for the child. The doctor's grave expression spoke before his words did. He checked her pulse, pressed his ear against her belly, then straightened with a sigh. "It has begun. There is no stopping it. The child is coming too soon." The room stilled. Grace's lips trembled, her eyes glassy, as she clutched at Oliver's sleeve. "Too soon? No, they're not ready. The baby's not ready." The doctor met Oliver's stricken gaze with quiet honesty. "There is little I can promise. We must hope for the best, but it will be difficult to save them both." The words dropped like stones into still water, rippling outward in silence. Labor consumed the hours that followed, each moment a relentless storm. Grace's cries echoed through the chamber, twisting the hearts of all who listened. Oliver never left her side, his hand clutched in hers, his voice hoarse from murmuring comfort, from pleading with her to fight. "You're strong, my lady," he whispered again and again, though his tears betrayed him. "You faced more than anyone I know. You can face this too. Just hold on. She writhed through the contractions, her face pale with exhaustion, her breath shallow. Sweat beaded her brow, dampening the loose strands of her hair. Her eyes found Oliver's through the haze of pain, wide and afraid. Arthur should be here, she whispered, voice breaking. He should be here for this. The words tore Oliver open. He could not answer. He could not bear to tell her the truth, that Arthur's silence was all they had, that no one knew if he still lived. Instead, he pressed her hand to his chest, letting her feel the frantic beat of his heart. Then I'll stay until he returns. You're not alone. Lady Caldwell stood at the head of the bed, her face composed though her hands trembled as she wiped Grace's brow. Breathe with me, my dear. That's it, steady. We need your strength. The night deepened, the hours dragging long and merciless. Grace screamed, sobbed, begging for it to end. The doctor worked tirelessly, his instructions calm but his expression betraying his worry. The child was early and far too small. At last, when Grace's body seemed it could endure no more, the room filled with a sudden jarring silence. A final cry escaped her lips as the doctor lifted the newborn from her, wrapped swiftly in linen. The baby was so small, so delicate, their face peaceful, tiny hands curled into fists. But there was no cry. No sound filled the room but the ragged breathing of those who waited. The doctor's shoulders slumped as he laid the still bundle gently into Grace's arms. I am sorry, he whispered, his voice thick with sorrow. It's a girl, perfect in every way, but she is gone. Grace stared down at the tiny face, her hands trembling as she traced the delicate features. Her sob broke the air, raw and shattering. My baby, she wept, my sweet girl. Oliver turned away, his jaw clenched, tears slipping freely down his cheeks. He pressed a hand to his mouth, muffling the cry that threatened to escape him. Lady Caldwell reached for the baby, but Grace clutched her closer, unwilling to let go. For a long while, the only sounds were Grace's broken murmurs and the quiet rustle of linen. As the hours passed, Grace's body weakened, her skin pale, her breath shallow. The doctor tended her carefully, noting the bleeding had slowed, offering cautious reassurance that she might yet recover. But the emptiness in her arms threatened to consume her more than the physical wounds. Oliver knelt beside the bed, his hand on her arm. You're still here. That matters. Arthur would want you safe. He would want you alive. Grace shook her head, her tears spilling anew. I was supposed to protect her. I couldn't even do that. Lady Caldwell's voice was soft but firm, her hand covering Grace's. Do not speak so, my dear. You carried her as long as you could. It was not your fault. Some burdens are crueler than we can bear. Grace clutched the small bundle tighter, her eyes closing as she pressed her lips to her daughter's still forehead. Arthur will never know her, she whispered, her words breaking with grief. He'll never see her face. Oliver bowed his head, his fists clenched. Then we will remember her for him. If he returns, he will know she lived, even for a moment, through you. Grace sobbed, her strength finally giving way. Exhaustion claimed her, and at last, she allowed Lady Caldwell to take the baby from her arms, laying the child gently in a cradle by the bed. Grace sank into restless sleep, her tears still damp on her cheeks. The chamber was quiet now. The only sounds were the crackle of the hearth and Grace's labored breathing. Lady Caldwell sat vigil at her side, her expression drawn, while Oliver lingered near the cradle, staring down at the still form within. The baby girl lay swaddled, peaceful in her silence. Oliver reached out, brushing a fingertip over the soft linen, his chest tight with unspoken words. He whispered into the stillness, his voice barely audible. She should have had a name. Behind him, Grace stirred in her sleep, murmuring faintly as though in answer. Oliver's throat burned with emotion, and he swore silently to himself that he would not let her face this grief alone.